And blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. To our great friend from the Northwest, the champion of conservatism and American values, Lars Larson. We've missed you. Thanks, and so glad that you're back, sir.
Well, I get a few people who get angry when I take vacation, but I say there's 6 months of the year I'm not allowed to take vacation at all during the spring and fall books, and then I do take vacation the other times. And if I don't get time with my family, then then what am I going to do? What kind of conservative would I be? So I got to take a little time off, and we try to make sure that when we take off, I leave some great interviews that I've done. I talk to a lot of book authors and a lot of smart people, and certainly smarter than me. And then we leave behind some shows that I think serve us well.
Indeed. How does one like you decompress over 2 weeks?
I immediately decompress. I have no problem. I mean, if people think that I love what I do and I love talking about the issues, but that doesn't mean I have to do that I have to do that all the time. I think people think you become obsessive about it, and I'm sure some people do. Not me. I can decompress immediately. So I had a great time taking a couple of weeks off, and it's been great, but it's great to be back too, and to see all these things that are going on. I did follow the news while I was on vacation, so it's been a little crazy out there, and the president seems to be driving everybody nuts, but in a good way for us.
You know, Lars, I found on vacation though, you kind of get back to your love of the politics because it's work, and I don't know if this is the same way for you because every day you're in at 7 a.m., 6:30, 6 a.m. You don't get out till late. And then you can kind of, I don't know if you want to say enjoy it, because if you want to watch the politics, you do. And I find myself being more drawn to it when I'm away than I'm actually working.
No,
sometimes.
That actually works for me as well. I mean, there are times where I'll sit back and I'll realize I don't have to immediately sort of phase this into something that I'm going to talk about on the air, and just, as you said, take it in the way you would if it was not your business.
Yeah, again, it really just makes you appreciate it. Now, you're always doing things on the weekend. Me, I watch the shows like The President. Did you build a fence or anything, or did you really just relax? I
just relaxed. Yeah. I just totally relaxed. Just had a good time with friends and just enjoyed myself. So it was nice to be off for a little while, and who knows? I might take another week. Tina and I might go somewhere later in the summer, but and then it'll be back into the fall, and we'll have to be ready for I guess the Democrats to figure out how they're going to choose a potential winner out of this mess they've got. I mean, who are they going to have? Kamala Harris, who Willie Brown, the very powerful politician from California, says she slept her way to her first two big political gigs, and she's got a number of hypocritical positions that she's taken that don't make any sense, where she's been apparently bought off. There was a mayor in San Diego who was prosecuted by Kamala Harris when she was Attorney General of California. He was accused credibly by 20 different women of sexually abusing them and putting them in a headlock to force them into sex. And you know what he got for that? He got 3 months of house arrest, 3 years of probation, and he lost part of his mayoral pension. And that was it. Now, he could have got 5 years in prison. He got no time in prison. And for somebody running as the #Me Too candidate from the Democrat Party, that seems like a problem.
Indeed. Lars Larson joining us here, KIDO Talk Radio. So what did you make of the send them home and the president and all the momentum that continues out of that?
Well, look, I understand that people, and there are times I think that Donald Trump will say things and I'll say, I wouldn't have said it that way. I have challenged listeners on 1,000 occasions. If you don't like this country, you can work to improve it, but these four women do not seem interested in improving it. It's interested in tearing it down by their comments rather than making it great again. And I think there's a difference. You can come into an old house or a failing company or a community with problems, and you could say, this place is terrible, and it always will be, and we want to tear that down. Or you can say, I want to figure out a way to fix the problems here and make it better. I get the impression that when the president says these women are incapable of loving this country, I believe that he's right. So was the way he said it the right way? Probably not. He could have said it differently, but he sure gets under their skin. And I don't think what he's saying is racist at all. In fact, there are, if you go back to the original use of America, love it or leave it, it was in the 1960s, and it was a response to the people who were protesting against America's involvement in the Vietnam War. They were people who believed we were wrong to be involved in the war. Well, there's a simple solution to that. If you believe that America is wrong to be involved in the war, the Congress declares war. They vote to declare war or not at the behest of a president usually, and your representatives can vote against it. They didn't for the longest time. So, there are times the Congress doesn't do what I want them to do. So what? Get used to it. If you want a system that says every time a small group is unhappy with the way the Congress or the president are acting, then the whole country has to change, even if the majority of the country believes something different. Well, it's a little narcissistic and selfish to suggest everything should always go my way. And I'll tell you what, Kevin, I will never take that position. There are lots of times the country does things that I don't believe are the right way to do things, both under Democrats and under Republicans. Does that mean that you then tear the system down? No. And frankly, I think the way I usually challenge people, in the same vein that the president did, was I say, if you don't like America, you think America is a terrible place. I mean, Barack Obama clearly thought America was a terrible colonial power and that it should pay for its sins. I don't believe that. But if you believe that, then find me a better place on earth. Find me a country that you think has greater freedoms and greater liberties for its citizens and greater opportunity for everyone who lives here, whether you like the current government in power or not. I don't think there is such a country. Great Britain comes close, but it has significant deficits in liberties that we don't have. Great Britain does not have a First Amendment. You and I could be thrown in jail for criticizing certain people if our talk shows were in Great Britain. Great Britain does not have a Second Amendment. Great Britain doesn't even have the same protections against self-incrimination or against search and seizure that we do. So even our sort of ideological cousins in Britain, our closest ally on the planet, Israel is there as well, and I'm a big supporter of Israel, but Great Britain comes the closest as far as our best ally, and they don't treat their own citizens as well as the poorest American gets treated when it comes to liberties. So tell me a better country to live in than this one. And if you want to criticize this one, and the fact that these four women want open borders, they want no controls on immigration whatsoever, and you're seeing people like Pramila Jayapal of Washington State, who's a member of Congress, who's also a female racial minority member of Congress, and she says nobody should ever be locked up for being in the country illegally. Well, think about that logically for a second.
Right.
So when somebody comes into your country illegally, you should not detain them, period? Well, then you have no borders, which means you're not a country.
Lars Larson joining us. Catch him tonight at 6, KIDO Talk Radio. Catch him anytime on Facebook, Twitter, and LarsLarson.com. What do you make of the move, Oregon now giving kids mental health days?
What a joke. I mean, it's near the top of my list, that along with all the Antifa nonsense that's going on. But, I always thought it was a joke at work when somebody would say, I'm going to stay home tomorrow. I need a mental health day. Like, and think about it. In some ways, Kevin, this is very much a first world problem. If you think about the third world where you have to scratch out a living, and then you think about somebody in America who says, oh, gosh, when I go to work, the way the boss treats me and the way my coworkers say things to me, I have to stay home because my brain is going to fail if I don't get a mental health day. Get over yourself. I mean, what a sappy, ridiculous position to take. And I think it's stupid. Taking mental health days is crazy. And to tell kids, anytime you feel like you're overwhelmed, you just have to say, I'm going to take a mental health day. You don't have to be physically ill. Well, the real world isn't going to give you that kind of latitude. They won't give it to you very much, let's put it that way. If you go to your boss and say, boss, I'm not really ill or anything, but I just want to stay home and watch old editions of Wheel of Fortune and that sort of thing. And you think the boss is going to say, sure, stay home.
Right.
You bet. No problem. We don't need you at all. In fact, if you stay home for long enough, we'll find out we don't need you at all. So, and that'll be good for us. We'll save some money.
Lars Larson joining us. Hey, Lars, what do you make of, we're getting ready, not this week, but next week, two things coming up. We've got Mueller testifying this week, next week, the next round of Democrat debates. Your thoughts on both?
Well, first of all, the Democrat debates are going to be hilarious because they are all trying to get farther to the left, and I don't think this is going to work out well for them. They still don't seem to be. I mean, you've got Joe Biden out front, but seemingly failing as a candidate, and he doesn't seem to be the choice of the party. Bernie Sanders, his time was the last go-round when Hillary literally cheated him out of a shot. Not that I like his policies, but everybody should get a fair shot. This time he doesn't seem to be catching fire. The Democrats overall in the last quarter raised half as much money as the Republicans. The Republicans raised twice as much money. And if you sue us because the Republicans are rich, let me tell you something. You want to count liberals up? Start counting all the top tech titans out there. Zuckerberg and Bezos and the rest of that crowd, they're all liberal. And they've all got giant piles of money. Most of Hollywood, giant piles of money. Sadly, a lot of Wall Street, giant piles of money. So why are the Republicans doubling up on what the Democrats can raise? And I think it's because the Democrats don't have anything really that they're offering except we hate Donald Trump. So then as to Mueller, I'm kind of glad. I mean, I was off for the 2 weeks, and I found out right before I left that Mueller was going to be testifying it was supposedly on the 17th. Well, that didn't happen, so it got pushed off. I'm kind of anxious to see, but I stick to my original position. This guy, and I don't like the way he approached the task of investigating the allegations against Donald Trump, and I fault him forever for not going after the real Russia collusion, and that was Hillary Clinton hiring a firm to pay money to Russian officials to give them information that became the Steele dossier and a blatant attempt to change the outcome of the election using information from Russian officials, and we know that for a fact. Meanwhile, Mueller spends all of his time investigating the fantasy that Donald Trump had something going on, and when he came out with his 400-page report, he said, look, I didn't find anything that is a prosecutable crime, period. And he has said a number of times, this is all I'm going to have to say about this. And to some extent, I understand why he's taking that position. Well, no, to a great extent, I understand it, because if he were to show up in front of the Congress and say, you know what, now that you ask me those questions, you're right. There were prosecutable crimes that Donald Trump committed. He would be saying that he had actually turned in a factually deficient or deficient report, and he hasn't said that. He said, I've said everything I'm going to say in the report. So what is the likelihood that he's going to show up, and no matter how much he's badgered by Jerry Nadler and a bunch of other Democrat nitwits, what's the chance he's going to say, gosh, guys, you're right. 2 years of work, all a gigantic staff, almost $40 million I spent, and I didn't realize till you asked me these clever Democrat questions that there were prosecutable crimes in there. Now, come on, Kevin. Do you think Robert Mueller, with his demeanor and his serious approach to everything, is going to say he goofed up and that in 400 pages of his report he neglected to mention the violations of the law that now Jerry Nadler has determined are there? I don't think he's going to do that. I think what they want most is to hear America ask these questions and Robert Mueller give non-answers.
Right.
But except he really would be. He will. I think he'll surprise them by giving real answers. Where you'll say, do you have evidence that a crime was committed? And Mueller's going to say, I said in the report I didn't, and I still say so today. Now, that is not going to play well for the Democrats. So they have to figure a way to ask the question in such a way that Americans hear some kind of damning question without getting the kind of answer back from Mueller that I suspect his report requires him to give, which is, was a crime committed? No. Don't have evidence of that. Did Donald Trump collude with the Russians? No. Don't have evidence of that. So did you like everything the president did? No, he didn't. He said so in the report. But I honestly don't think they're going to get anything out of Robert Mueller that we don't have already. So what good is it going to do them? Kevin, there are times where I get people on the show and I'll ask them a question and they'll give me a non-answer. I will back them into a corner and say, if all these things are true, why wouldn't you then take action? And when they give me a non-answer, it's as good as an answer. But in Mueller's case, he's already given the answer, 400 pages of it. So I don't think it's likely they're going to get anything useful out of it.
No, they'll just continue to churn this up. Lars, we could go on and on, but we can't wait to hear what you have to say tonight at 6. Glad you got some time away, and we always love you here.
Thanks, Kevin. You take care.
Thank you. Our great friend Lars Larson joining us. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And once again, urging you not to use the Facebook app. Why? Russian collusion, delusion. Apparently it's owned by the Russians. Remember the Russians that did or didn't tamper with the election, and apparently they're grabbing your face and using it for gosh knows what. Other news of the day, if you think that plastic straws are the biggest problem in the world today, apparently not. While the world has been dealing with ways to deal with polluting plastic straws, our friends from the BBC report, according to the Angela Ruskin University, you know them, they play Boise State every other year, shows that cigarette butts are the largest human-caused pollutant on our planet. Just how many cigarette butts are there? Of course, we don't see many around the Treasure Valley anymore, right? 4.5 trillion. That's right, 4.5 trillion cigarette butts are littered each year. These cigarette butts filters have a non-biodegradable plastic in them. Who would have thought that filters had plastic in them, right? Butts left in grass and soil stunt plant growth by around 25%. The conservation reports that 30 to 40% of litter found during coastal water cleanups since the 1980s are cigarette butts. Some states like California want to ban cigarette filters, believing they do more harm than good. As always, how California goes, so goes the rest of the country. Coming up next, one person in major media says that if you wear a Trump hat, that's the same thing as a Nazi symbol. Oh, my. We'll get your response next. First, traffic and weather together. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. So here's one of the more outrageous clips of the day, and another way of saying, thank goodness we live in Idaho.
This is something that his supporters, and we have to start calling his supporters racist as well. That MAGA symbol has come to represent something. It is the new Nazi symbol. It is the new.
All right, let's hear this once again at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, that now we have the folks on MSNBC defending folks known as the Squad, and you have something called the Beat DC's Tiffany Cross declaring that if you wear a MAGA hat, that is the equivalent of a Klan hood or a Nazi symbol. Now, you talk about irresponsible television, you talk about irresponsible journalism, and that is the case.
Europe used to operate.
Yeah, I think this is something that his supporters, and we have to start calling his supporters racist as well. That MAGA symbol has come to represent something. It is the new Nazi symbol. It is the new hood, the Klan hood. So I think they don't feel comfortable describing themselves that way, and so this president has to say, oh, no, you guys don't worry about it because this is what I mean. And when he says America first, he means white America first. And that's something that racism is so ingrained in this country that when you criticize it, people feel like...
Right. Racism is so ingrained in this country that we elected and reelected a black president. Most of our entertainment, our athletes, everything else are minorities. You're right. We're cheering for the other team, the white team, which is totally absurd, totally ridiculous. And you just wonder what type of planet these folks are really living on. Let's go to Max in Garden City with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Max.
Hey, good morning, buddy. How you doing? This
hey,
fine,
by the way,
cloudy, but going to be a hot day.
You need to call Linda at the office. You left some papers behind here, so your personal papers. Yes, she's worried about you.
Did you check those attachments I sent in your email?
I've gotten several of them. Yes.
Okay, just 001002. My email started repeating itself, so you might have gotten the same email a few times. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I'm complaining about the fact that we're going to get it next. The Black Lives Matter curriculum is being taught in a number of California and New York schools. In Wisconsin, the state allocated $500,000 for Black Lives Matter to be taught in the primary schools and in the high schools. They're indoctrinating our next generation of Antifa and Black Lives Matters people. And in Wisconsin, the people complained, so they took a closer look and said, well, to heck with you, and they passed it anyway. Are we doing that here yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
What scares me is everybody looks at the gubernatorial race. They look at the mayoral race. They need to look more closely at who's getting on their school boards. In the end, doesn't the power lay with the school board? Aren't they the ones that say not to this,
well,
yes to that?
The school board and the State Board of Education and everything else.
And you know what? I would like to think of one reason why we have a State Board of Education. What exactly do they do that they should be doing that isn't being done by school boards? School boards are here to represent the people, what they want their children to know, to learn, how they want them to be taught. State has no business putting their thumb in there, neither does the U.S. Department of Education. Another place that needs to be eliminated. Would you agree?
Oh, I would agree. And I think it comes down to whether or not the state of Idaho, through the legislature, wants to really stop the liberal indoctrination that's going on.
Well, I was speaking with some children from Capitol High School here, and I was just talking to them, and I was absolutely shocked at how liberally they're being taught here in Boise. I thought, good Lord, are you serious? Now, they're good kids in the church, and their parents have taught them right from wrong, and they recognize this indoctrination for what it is. And this one 17-year-old said, well, schools aren't really education centers anymore. He said they're re-education centers. Coming from China, I know what re-education camps look like, and they're not too far off from what we're starting to do here.
Max, thank you for the call. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. Rolling on the right side, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Do want to remind you, girls with guns, we would love to get your girl and her gun on our website at KIDOTalkRadio.com. More details there, plus the KIDO Talk Radio app. And speaking of which, you can win a rifle, you can win a safe, you can win a year's membership to Independence Indoor Shooting in beautiful Meridian, Idaho. And we look forward to that. Also, looking forward to a big week in current events and politics. If you missed it, Lars Larson breaking down what he believes will be a big nothing burger. Of course, the press won't let it roll that way. They're going to be going on and on about Robert Mueller's testimony and everything else. And by the way, if you missed it over the weekend, our friend Stephen Miller, no relation, got into it with Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday, which you can catch right here every Sunday at 4 o'clock.
Taking umbrage at the term racist that some Democrats have leveled at President Trump, senior White House policy advisor Stephen Miller defended the president's recent statements and tweets to Fox's Chris Wallace.
I think the term racist, Chris, has become a label that is too often deployed by the left, Democrats in this country, simply to try to silence and punish and suppress people they disagree with, speech that they don't want to hear.
Miller said the president is not a racist, and his policies, he argued, have benefited all Americans, including minorities. At the White House, John Decker, Fox News.
And John joins us live now on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Hey, good morning to you, Kevin. Hope you had a great weekend. Are you getting this heat that we've been having so much out here out east, or is it pretty comfortable there?
No, we're getting triple digits beginning today, sir.
Oh, wow. Well, stay cool. Stay cool. We've been having that the past few days, and we're looking forward to more certainly comfortable weather a little bit later this week. So hopefully you get that in due course as well.
That would be nice. What do you make of Stephen Miller? Years ago, he and I appeared on the Nancy Grace Show in O'Reilly covering the Duke lacrosse case. But as a young person, and John, you see the best and brightest every day. You compete against them. You are one of them. But Stephen Miller is a different cat, going toe-to-toe and holding his own with Chris Wallace.
Well, I think that's right. You know, I've obviously dealt with Stephen Miller quite a bit in a good sense over the course of his time as a senior aide to President Trump. And you know, the reason why you were on that program alongside Stephen Miller is because Stephen Miller, I would imagine at the time, was attending Duke. He's a Duke graduate, and of course that was quite the case. And if you may recall, what really broke that case wide open was a 60 Minutes story done by
Ed Bradley.
Ed Bradley.
Yeah.
Ed Bradley, God rest his soul. So in any case, he's a very bright person. The president really respects him quite a bit, and he's one of those loyal aides, and there are very few of them, but he's one of those loyal aides that he trusts to do just about anything, and he's quite comfortable having him go on Fox News Sunday to defend the president from charges of racism, and I think he does a very good job in terms of defending the president.
No, I remember him as a Duke undergrad, and I'm going, man, this kid's got it. Then he worked for Senator Sessions, now with the administration. What's it like inside the bubble, or is it just more of the same with the president not backing down, seemingly disavowing the chant, then saying they're great Americans, led for a confusing Sunday of Sunday talk shows?
Look, the president, as you know, has quite the busy week, not only focused on what he's been focused on almost every day, which is the feud he's been having with these 4 Democratic congresswomen, tweeting about it consistently over the weekend and even today. But today he's got a busy day. As we speak, he's heading over to the U.S. Supreme Court to pay his final tribute to the recently deceased Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens. Obviously, there's a ceremony happening at the Supreme Court this morning. And in addition to that, this afternoon, he's going to welcome his counterpart from Pakistan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, who is playing a very important role in terms of trying to bring some semblance of peace to Afghanistan. That would involve peace with the Taliban. So that's an important element that's just happening today, Kevin. And then on Wednesday, of course, you got the Mueller testimony. He'll testify before 2 congressional committees, and we'll certainly be doing lots of coverage of that leading up to, including, and after his testimony on Wednesday.
The Mueller testimony, people were joking whether or not the president would be watching. The former special counsel said he's not going to do anything more than read from his report. What do people hope to benefit from it on both sides of much watch, much listen to media event that will be happening, John?
Well, I think that that is about right. Mr. Mueller has said already that the report stands on its own. It speaks for itself. I don't think he is going to go beyond what's in the 4 corners of that document, that 448-page document. And I think that it's going to be frustrating to a certain extent because Democrats want him to do just that, go beyond that and say that the president did commit obstruction of justice. He's not going to do that. He's going to be very disciplined on Wednesday. I have no doubt about it. But that may be all that Democrats want. If he's disciplined and just simply reads elements of the Mueller report that he wrote out loud, that may be enough to begin an impeachment inquiry focused on the president and on the issue of obstruction of justice. So those are the things that we'll be following on Wednesday later this week.
John Decker, final thought. Any word on when the first White House briefing will be, or did we miss it already?
No, you didn't miss it. You mean the first briefing with Stephanie Grisham, the White House press secretary. Hasn't happened with Stephanie just yet. Last week we had a White House briefing in the briefing room, but it just was a briefing involving the Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, but nothing with just Stephanie alone. And I don't know when or if that's going to happen. I certainly would like it to happen on a regular basis, not just sort of a one-off. So we'll see what happens, Kevin.
John Decker, we always appreciate you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you real soon. Stay cool out there.
Yes, sir. You too. Bye-bye. There we have it. John Decker. Remember, when you hear Fox News on the radio, you're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Pro-Life joins us now. Good morning.
Yeah, I'm a racist because of my politics. And, Congressman West, Secretary Carson, Walter Williams, Alan Keyes, Mia Love, Kanye West, they're all racist because they don't have the right politics.
Right.
And you can't. The Democrats are so stupid and ridiculous that they deserve to lose, and I hope they do. But anyway, you were talking about the State Board of Education, and what we need to do in Idaho, and I don't know if our politicians have enough sense to do this, but they need to switch from having the governor appoint Board of Education members to having elected Board of Regents. And so when the populace elects the people that are going to make the decisions for the university, that's much better. We elect our judges, we should also elect our Board of Education.
How do you think that would be received?
I think it'd be received real good if you could get the establishment to push it. But I don't know if Brad Little and his group and Mr. Bedke and Mr. Hill and those kind of people, I think they don't want any controversy, so they would probably back down and wimp out about it, but they know that that's the principle that should happen.
Well, let me pose this for people, not only you, Pro-Life, but at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We're not like Oregon. We're not like Washington or California. We have a large dominance when it comes to the Republican Party. Yet, when we take a look at using that majority for an advantage, we don't really seem to do much with it. Sure, we can cut regulations, which is very important. Sure, we can buy the old HP building, but not give people the break with the repealing the grocery tax. But wouldn't all establishment, liberal, moderate, conservative lawmakers be concerned, be troubled by the growing liberal presence led by Dave Beater in the city of Boise, number one. Number two, led by a lot of out-of-state students at Boise State quoting the Idaho way in reaction to a harmless letter from state representatives. And then you have a president now from liberal California coming in who apparently very charming, very charismatic. But, Dr. Kostra, God bless him, if he had an issue, he would just say it. From what we hear about Dr. Trump, I've heard a lot. We've been doing a lot of research into her background. She's very shrewd. You'll never see it coming. And before there's any opposition, boom, she's got her agenda passed. So if I'm a conservative legislature, if I'm a conservative or a moderate, I'm thinking to myself, we got to get the libs under control. And more importantly, the only time we hear about the State Board of Education is when they raise tuition, which is unacceptable, 6% for what? For Dr. Trump's pay raise, for the guy in Idaho who's so irrelevant we don't even know his name. Lewis and Clark, 7%, 8%.
Yeah.
Where is the money going? So it's time for the legislature to take a look at these guys, I would think.
Yeah, they need to be elected. And what happens to you?
Right, let's elect them. Let them run on the Miller platform.
Exactly, on the pro-life platform.
The pro-life platform, yes.
Because once you get a liberal Board of Education, then what do? If there's a vacancy at one of the presidencies of the university, they get to suggest.
Well, why didn't somebody try and get Bill Bennett as the president of Boise State?
Yeah, why?
Where were the conservatives? All we get is libs.
Well,
know what the new name for them? Leftovers.
Right. Well, but anyway, what they do is they get to recommend to the president 3 choices, and so they give him 3 liberal choices.
Libby, and Libby. Thank you, Pro-Life. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And the hits just keep on coming all day long. Don't forget, after Glenn Beck, David Ramsey. David Ramsey, big guy. He'll teach you how to, to save more and spend less. Can't miss that show. And then Sean Hannity. Wait a minute. I forgot. We would like to hear what you have to say. Let's go to Liberal Steve with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberal Steve.
Good morning, America. Good morning, Mr. Miller.
And to you.
Out of the 28,000, approximately, regional Rush Limbaugh clone talk radio shows, except for Miller, he's not a clone. Your show was going so good, and then all of a sudden I thought I was watching paint dry. Lars Larson came on. Come on. He's such an ignorant blowhard. He spews all kinds of hypocrisy on the air for fun and profit. He's such a loser. Don't have him on anymore, please.
Now, what did we say about personal attacks? What did we say about attacking people's character?
Did I hear you say anything to Lars when he called that individual a nitwit?
Well, if the truth fits.
Yeah. Yeah, when the shoe's on the other foot, the Republicans, whose mouth can always hold more than their bellikins, will spew all kinds of inanities. So, yeah, it was a good show until you did that. And I believe that ICE, someone in ICE, this is just me thinking out loud, tipped off the people in the concert at Jerome about, hey, going to be a raid. So they canceled it. You know, the ICE, they got a lot of people on the inside and the outside. That's just the way the world works,
Well,
Miller.
we appreciate that, and we appreciate your unsolicited critiques of Lars Larson.
And I'm glad that you have, what's his name again? Right to who? Right to life?
Pro-life.
Yeah, pro-life. Well, who isn't pro-life? Come on. I'm just glad you have him on, too, because there's another hypocrite who's spawned by the devil, I believe.
Now, why do you say he's spawned by the devil? That is just not nice. Did you wake up on the left side of the bed, the wrong side of the bed today?
I believe he is spawned by the devil. He looks like that preacher in the first Poltergeist movie. That was walking down the sidewalk. Looks just like him.
Oh, don't compare him to the preacher in Poltergeist.
That's what I think, and I can think whatever I want, Miller.
Duly noted.
Duly noted. Have a great day, baby.
Thank you. No, I don't really appreciate him calling me baby. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. Back to your phone calls about the issues that matter to you on KIDO Talk Radio. Hank, good morning.
Good morning. Also, there's a failure on the legislature in their oversight role. I think one of the classic examples was the PeopleSoft scandal at Boise State under Charles Rook. The Boise State lost close to $20 million on a non-functional software program, which was supposed to keep track of students and personnel at Boise State, and turned out to be a first-class disaster. And some certain amount, and of course, Boise State, right, can raise fees in order to cover their losses, and it's still in the waste. I mean, there was another deal where they paid $100,000 or $118,000 for a logo when they could have gotten one free from the students on the campus. That was kind of a joke because the company that came out with it had a symbol that they used for refile. It looked like something out of the Waffen SS, those lightning bolts in order. That was kind of.
Well, we're not down with the Waffen SS anymore, or ever.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just pointing out some of the stupidity that goes on, and then this.
Well, I think it really comes down to it, though, Hank, and you've been covering this for years. You know, are people in Idaho? You know, you have these kids, about maybe 100 at best, talking about the Idaho way. In your opinion, does Boise State reflect the Idaho way? Quickly.
Nothing like the Idaho way. It's basically political correct liberalism straight down the line. Rook insisted on, before he left the presidency, on diversity classes, which cost the students another $1,400 in free credits in order to graduate. And it's the usual brainwashing and liberal indoctrination.
Right, and we've got to stop it. Hank, I apologize, got to run quickly. Liberty Linda, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Liberty Linda, bring us home.
Well, I didn't know if I could get in before Tea Party Bob, or do we call him Lemonade Bob since he moved up north? Which is it?
Well, if you have lemons, make lemonade.
Right. Anyway, you know, I can't believe what's going on with the beaches in California. When I grew up there, Kevin, they were spotless. Everybody knew, you know, the big garbage can as you walked out of the beach, and you put all your garbage in it. As simple as that. So what's going on with that? And so it's going to be very interesting also to find out what Mueller's going to say. We know when he talked for those few minutes that day, you know, he only gave his own interpretation of everything. And so this is going to be very interesting Wednesday to see if he's going to talk about his own interpretation or what he actually
You're right.
Now.
Liberty Linda, I got to run. God bless.
Okay, you as well. Bye-bye.
Glenn Beck is next. Stay tuned.